Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video, I'm going to share some information with you on two beautiful plants that are both in the parsley family, and this is Osha root and Lomatium root. Now, the information I share with you in this video is not meant to be medical advice. This is just meant to entertain and educate you only. Now, both of these plants go really well together, in my opinion, in the same video because they are plants that only are wildcrafted. You can't cultivate them. Osha is actually on the threatened species list, so you have to be very careful where you go. You have to make sure you're identifying the right plant. But even the same with Lomatium. It's not on the endangered species list, but it is a little bit difficult to identify. There's also 13 different species of Lomatium. Now, the Lomatium that has all the properties that I love and have come to really love over the years is Lomatium dissectum, and the variation is multifida. And this species of Lomatium has yellow flowers. And in the Osha root, it has white flowers. So you've got these two plants that the properties all reside in the root, and one has yellow flowers that are all in a little bit of a circle. Let me show you. This is Osha. That is the Osha flower, where it's white, and then the Lomatium flower is yellow. Now, both of these plants grow in places that are mountainous. The soils that they thrive in are very, very different. Osha root loves rich, moist soil, partially sun, partially shade, and it grows above 8,000 feet, so in mountainous areas. Places in mostly North America is where it's native, parts of Mexico in the mountains, and then in the United States, it grows in places like Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Nevada, places in Northern California. It loves places that are high and the soil rich and moist and partially shade. Now that's Osha. Now with Lomatium, it loves really arid soil that faces the mountains face south. It's funny how both these plants are so particular about where they grow, and you can't cultivate them. Both of these plants have never been successfully cultivated. Now, in both of these plants, the power lies in their roots, like I said. And this is something that have provided health benefits to humans literally for centuries. And these are powerful, well-known Native American plants because they grow in places where the Native Americans have spent centuries, they've thrived, and they've used these plants. Now, both of these plants have antimicrobial properties. So antiviral is probably its most potent, and Osha has a special affinity for lung health and lung infections from my experience. Osha loves things to go with it like mullein, lobelia, lungwort. Those type of herbs go really well with Osha root. But if I were to just pick one to go after a lung infection, it would probably be Osha root. Now, Lomatium is something that I have spent a lot of years not just using, but talking about, studying, and also in my childhood and even in my adulthood, wildcrafting Lomatium. It is a beautiful plant that I've used on my kids since they were little. My grandkids have used it. And that, along with using Osha root, has been a key factor in helping me stay well. Now, there's several different ways you can use both Osha root and Lomatium. My favorite way is in tincture form, where you take the resinous roots of both these plants. After you harvest them, you dry them and cure them because some of the properties that come out in them are when they're oxidized. And then because they're such fibrous, tough roots, then you grind them up so that you can actually expose a lot of the medicinal properties, and then you soak them in an alcohol base, something like a high-proof vodka or something like that. And then you let the alcohol pull all the properties out of those roots. Then you filter them, you strain out the bulk material, and then you've got a powerful, powerful tincture that when you take it, it absorbs right into the body, goes right to the bloodstream, And I've personally had very fast results using both Lomatium and Osha root. You can also take both of these as a tea, even though that's actually more common for Osha root. You could take an Osha root and just simply chew on it like you could Lomatium. In fact, that's something we used to do as kids. My dad would get a fresh Lomatium root, and I've actually done this as an adult and with some of my nieces and nephews. It's kind of this rite of passage. We slice open a Lomatium root. We take a bite right out of it where it's just oozing all of these oils, and it will put a serious pucker in your taste buds and in your mouth, but you can really feel it, the power of it go to work. So this is something I would really suggest that you do a little bit more research on. Are these two beautiful plants, both in the parsley family. Their leaves look like parsley, and this is how it got its name. And these both have long Native American history and tradition and use that is one of the most beautiful gifts, in my opinion, that Mother Nature has given to us as human beings. So Osha root has a certain affinity for the lungs, and Lomatium root has a certain affinity for going after all kinds of microbes that can come at us, like viruses, funguses, yeast, some types of bad bacteria. And these two powerhouses are something definitely to add into your herbal arsenal. Now, the thing with both of these is they are a little difficult to get. If you're even thinking about wildcrafting, you also have, remember, Osha is on the threatened species list. And then Lomatium root is there. It sometimes grows on not just private property, but it also grows on public lands. So there are permits that are needed. But one of the most important things from my perspective is that you need to know how to identify this plant properly, because there are other species. Now, here's another tip. Both of these roots need to be harvested in the late fall. Because if you think about the properties of a plant where all their properties are in the roots, if a plant is in full bloom and it's growing, then a lot of its power is concentrated in the leaves, the flowers, and the stems. But once the top of the plant goes dormant, then all of the medicinal properties and power can focus in the root. So for many roots that are used for humans for medicine, the time of year to collect them is in the fall, the late fall, when the top of the plant has died and gone dormant. So this is, again, where it can be a little bit tricky to identify if this is something that you've wanted to harvest on your own. Over the years, I've had many people that have big acres of property that they've pulled up and dug up certain roots, and they're certain it's Lomatium or Osha. They'll send me a picture and say, hey, look, I found some Osha root. And then it turns out to be something completely different. So this is where going with somebody who knows how to identify these plants in the state where they are, as far as, is it fall and the rest of the plant on top is dead and has gone dormant and it has basically lived its life season before it comes back to grow again in the spring. So it's really important to know how to identify these plants at their time of harvest. So I'd love to know what you think about both of these plants. And do you have any experience, not just wildcrafting them, but do you have experience in using them? And maybe you've just used them in supplement form and you know the power of using these two gifts from Mother Nature and how they've improved your health. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you in the next one.